Hello students, I'm here to help you figure out how to, start and complete a rhetorical analysis. So one of the things to note, up to this point, you should have read everything on the syllabus. You should have viewed all things in Paper 1 module. There are some prezzies and links that we haven't gone through yet in that module, and also there's a sample paper and the rubric I will use to grade these essays. All of these things will be very helpful to help you tailor this to the project that I'm asking for. Also, make sure that as you're writing your paper, you look back at the assignment sheet in Paper 1 module to tailor the paper that you're writing to the requirements of this paper. So for example, I ask for 1,200 words. If you turn in something with 600 words, that doesn't meet the requirements. So all of the things I'm talking about today, assume that you've picked your artifact for analysis. If you're still at a loss, you need to pick something ASAP. So step 1 is to recall the meaning of ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos. I did a whole kind of PowerPoint lecture last time we met talking about these. So look back at your notes. Pathos meaning appeals to emotion. Logos appeals to structure and evidence. Ethos being appeals to trustworthiness, credibility, and kairos being using the timing. Again, these are more complicated than what I'm saying right here and right now, but hopefully you have a good grasp of these different appeals. Remember, these are the things that an author uses to help best persuade their audience. Step 2 is to research the rhetorical situation. Remember, the rhetorical situation is complexes of persons, events, objects, and relations inviting discussion which, if fitting to the situation, alters the situation. Thus, it is the background of any piece of rhetoric. Knowing this helps you understand and evaluate the use of rhetorical appeals. For example, Sarah Palin's use of appeals to ethos in speeches have drastically changed between her running for vice president and now. In this case, the context of her running for vice president and her current role are part of the rhetorical situation. Similarly, the occasion for any commercial is part of the rhetorical situation and alters the direction of that commercial. Think of the difference between a commercial airing during the Super Bowl and a commercial airing during daytime TV. Both of those have different audiences. Both of those have different genre conventions. For example, Super Bowl commercials are generally very lavish and meant to shock, whereas daytime TV commercials are very domestic and normal, meant to really kind of reinforce the idea of domesticity and family and home. I have put together a rhetorical situation handout under Paper 1 module. I'm suggesting that you fully fill it out to articulate the rhetorical situation for your artifact. Again, these could be put in your process work when you turn in the final paper. And on this PowerPoint, it kind of goes through the different things that I'm asking about the rhetorical situation. Step 3 is to view the artifact and take notes. In Paper 1 module, there's an Excel spreadsheet called Rhetorical Analysis Notes. You will see that it has 4 columns, just like you see right here. Ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos. View/read your artifact and list as many appeals as you can in the columns. Remember to include the details. These are the notes from which you will build claims. Claims are best built through specific evidence. So for example, if you wish to show that Jon Stewart constructs his ethos against the Republican Party, you might use examples of visual rhetoric in which he assumes the clean look of a rational TV reporter through the wearing of a nice suit, through the way he speaks, while Samantha B assumes the wild look of an Alaskan mom. Again, perhaps it's the words she used, perhaps it's the clothes she wears. Going through these details and explaining them are the difference between an okay paper and an excellent paper. Thus, in the note-taking stage, you are simply jotting down all rhetorical appeals you see. And I know on this sheet, I give you room for 10 rows. I would suggest using all of them, knowing that all of these, as you review them, you might decide that they're not all as strong, and you might only get a couple in each column that are really strong. Step 4 asks you to review the rhetorical situation against the appeals you find and narrow down which appeals you want to talk about in the paper. I'm suggesting at least talking about one specific thing for each appeal. However, you may want to talk about more. I'd say no more than 3 per appeal. Just remember, you won't be able to talk about all of them. Narrow down these and note them on your rhetorical analysis handout. You could note this by highlighting them. Step 5 asks you to think through a tentative thesis. What's your evaluation of the way the author/creator uses rhetorical appeals within the artifact to best persuade their audience? This should be your tentative thesis. Write it down. Step 6 asks you to write the section in which you explain the rhetorical situation. Refer back to your handout on rhetorical situation. So this should probably be one of the first couple of paragraphs of your rhetorical analysis. I always tell students that it would be really nice to do an intro and then an explanation of the rhetorical situation. Now, some students like to do a 2-paragraph intro. Sometimes it takes a couple paragraphs to completely explain the rhetorical situation. That's fine. I'm not saying it has to be your second paragraph, but I think that explaining the rhetorical situation somewhere between your introduction and the claims that you build is really helpful for setting the stage for your analysis. Step 7 asks you to build claims. Remember, this is how you will support your thesis. The body of your paper is right here. Now, remember, you are not writing a summary of your artifact. You are to assume that your audience, which is myself and your classmates, either is already familiar with your artifact or can easily watch or view your artifact. So as you're writing this section, remember to only write enough to reference the thing you're talking about, not to completely summarize it. Do not get caught up in retelling the events of, say, your documentary. Instead, make sure that you're pulling out the specific pieces and talking about those specifically, maybe only needing 1 sentence of summary so that you can then build off that as evidence. You will need to talk about ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos. Specifically, for every example of a rhetorical appeal, you will need to identify, analyze, and evaluate it. Identifying it means basically saying how X is an appeal to Y. The use of color is an appeal to ethos. Analyzing is discussing how the example operates to forward persuasion. So here, you'll think back to the rhetorical situation. Maybe the use of color captures the audience or adheres to some design standard within the genre. Both of these things, the design standard and the specific audience, you've already referenced in the rhetorical situation, and you'll explain how the specific color works to do either of these things. Finally, you'll explain the rhetorical function of the example you have identified. Finally, you will evaluate the effectiveness of the example. You might decide the example is effective, ineffective, or mixed, and you must explain why you've evaluated it a certain way. You need to do this for every example of a rhetorical appeal you provide. This is how you build good claims. And you'll notice right here, the visual I gave you is something that I know I was introduced to in like 3rd grade, but I still think it's a really great visual to understand if there's enough support for what you're saying in each paragraph. So here, it asks you the introduction to the paragraph. It's a topic sentence. Supporting ideas. This is how you build the claim. Protect your paragraph with a support. Provide strong support so your paragraph doesn't get knocked down, right? This is the meat of your analysis. Finally, put it all together. Write a full intro with a thesis. Craft and sequence topic sentences to develop the argument you're making. Remember, topic sentences are the sentences that guide each of your paragraph. My suggestion is to front them at the beginning of paragraphs so readers don't have to work so hard to discern the argument you're making. Add your building of claims within the paragraphs. Write a conclusion. What can we learn about rhetoric or the crafting of rhetoric from the artifact you've analyzed? And step 9 asks you to format the paper. So side by side on my left, you'll notice this is what an MLA paper looks like. It has a heading, it has a title, and not just a title that says Essay 1. It uses the tab key to indent all paragraph. You double space paragraph. The font is Times New Roman, and on every other subsequent page besides the first page, in the upper right hand corner is the author's last name and page number. Now the other thing that you'll need is a bibliography. We haven't exactly talked about bibliographies yet, but here's a great place to practice. What's due for Monday is the rough draft, so we can catch any errors or inconsistencies in your bibliography before then. What should be included on your bibliography? At least your artifact. Most likely anything that you've included to help you research the rhetorical situation will end up there too. They need to be in MLA format, so you might want to consult the Purdue Online Writing Lab. If you Google Purdue OWL, it will be the first thing that comes up. So I'm looking forward to seeing these on Monday. Thank you.